Hello and welcome to Bitrix24 Live. Thanks for joining today. My name's Sam Connor, Sales Engineer here at Bitrix24 Gold Partners Interface. We're based in the UK and we also have offices in New York and in Dubai. And joining me today I have Danielle, our Project Manager.
Hi everyone.
And just before we go through the questions today, just to go into details about the range of services that we can offer to help you with your Bitrix24 projects. So at Interface we offer pre-sales support, so we can provide you with a bespoke demonstration after going through your requirements to evaluate how Bitrix24 can meet your requirements. We can then help to customize the software for you, and we can then implement, we can then train and provide ongoing support to help you get the most out of Bitrix24.
Okay, so if you have got any questions whilst we're on the session, if you want to put them in the comments box on YouTube and we'll address them. We have had quite a few questions throughout the week, so we'll go through those first and we'll get to any questions that are asked as we go along.
Okay, so as Danielle said, we've had quite a few coming today, so we'll start with some of those. And one of the questions we've had is it possible to stop a deal progressing if there is critical information missing? Now, I guess it depends on what type of information you're referring to there, but yes, it is possible to stop a deal from progressing. So what we can do is, if we go into the CRM, we'll see how we can configure the field rules to stop a deal from progressing. It's a very useful tool because there may be, as the question asks there, critical details and information that you need to have on the system before it can then maybe progress to another person or department who is working on that deal. So if we go into our deals in the CRM, what we can see here is we've opened up a deal. We can see what stage we're at here, so at the welcome call stage. And what we can do is we can create custom fields so we can capture all of the information that we need to have associated to that particular deal. And inside those fields, we can then set rules to take place. So for example, here we have a field for client location. So we need to capture the location of this client inside their deal. And what we can do is we can go into edit the settings of that particular field. And at the bottom here, what we can see is the required starting with a particular stage. And what this means is that field has got to have been inputted with information, so we have to have selected the location of that client before we can progress. And you can choose what stage that rule takes place. So here we may say, before the schedule on-site visit, we need to know the location of the client. So we can select that in the system and we can then save that like so. And what we'll see now is if we try to progress that past onto the schedule on-site visit, we can't, it will not let us progress because we have not selected the information. So that's the rule that we can then put in place. So it's forcing us to capture that critical information before we can progress. And now we'll see, now we've added that information, we can progress that deal and we can then continue to progress the deal through those different stages.
Okay, so we also had a question about creating tasks within business processes and how you can create tasks to follow on from each other. So if we go into the CRM and into settings, then within automation here we've got the business process tool. So if you were to create a business process, for example, within lead, if you add a new template, so this process you can change whether it's run when a lead is added or when a lead is changed. So once you start to create the process, if you want to add tasks which run one after the other. So you put your tasks in, and then you can edit these so that they pause when the task is running, or they carry on. So that essentially means that you can either have tasks which run one after the other and have to be completed before you move to the next task, or you can have them run in parallel. So if we do not pause it, then they'll run in parallel, and if we pause it, then that task will have to be completed before you move on to the next. So if we set that to yes and then completed these fields, so task name, the creator of the task, the responsible person, and anything you want to put in the task description. Once you have saved that task, you can then do the same on your next task. So again, you can either have it so it runs in parallel with the task that follows, or have them following on from each other.
Okay. As I say, if we have any questions come in, please add them into the comments box and we'll go through those in the session today. So we'll continue with some of the questions that we've had throughout the week, and one of those being, how do I turn off call recording so they don't need that feature? So inside telephony you can record calls, but it may be for security or your personal preference you don't want to have those calls recorded in the system. So you can configure the setting and change that. So inside telephony we can see the numbers that we have integrated, and on each of those numbers we can then go into the settings on the number. And then one option we can see here is recording. So what we can do is we can select or deselect the option here for recording those calls. And maybe if you did record those calls, you do have the option here to play a warning message to your clients. So when they're calling through the system, a warning message will be replayed to them, warning them about the call being recorded. So you do have that option. But if you decide you don't want to record the calls, you can simply turn off that setting like so. So it's a simple process that you can configure in the telephony settings. Okay, so that's the telephony question. We've also had another question, we get this quite a lot, regarding, again in deals, around can I change the stages of a deal? And yes you can, and it's a very important feature in the CRM where we can customize the stages of our deals. And just to provide some more context into the stages that we can configure, in each of your pipelines that you have, so pipelines are where we can segment our sales, maybe by say geographical location or different products and services that we offer. In each of those pipelines we can have separate stages, so you may have different sales strategies. So in each of those pipelines here we can have different stages in the system. So it's a very useful tool to have. And to customize those stages, what we can do is we can go into the settings in the CRM system. So if we come into the settings here, we can then go to our deal pipelines. So there you can see your pipelines, and then I can choose which pipeline I'm wanting to edit the stages for. And then we simply go into edit stages, so we can see the stages for that particular pipeline. And it may be that you want to change the names, change the colours, so you can change those in the system. Or it may be that you want to add additional stages. So you can simply choose the add stage, and we can then add the new stage like so. And there you have your new stage, and if you want to change the actual view of those, we can move those stages around very simply like so. Okay.
Okay, so another question we've had is about marketing. So how can you create groups of people to send marketing emails to, rather than just mass mailing. So if you go into CRM marketing here, then you can create a segment. So a segment is essentially the list of people that you want to send the mail to. So if you go to create a segment, so you can then select from clients or leads here in terms of who you want to add to your segment. So you can narrow this down a little bit as well. So you can use the stages, other fields that you can use as well to bring up a list of the contacts or the clients or the leads that you want to send the email to. So you can filter based on those fields. You can also make a custom list. So if you have a list in mind that you want to send to, you can copy and paste those email addresses into here and just import them, and that will also create the segment as well. So once you've created your segment using the fields, you can save that. And then when you go to campaigns, you can create a new campaign for your marketing mail. So create campaign here. So you've got the different options. We'll go through the email campaign. Then you can select whichever template you want to use. So there are standard ones within Bitrix, or of course you can create your own. So if we just select one that's in the system, then head to select segment here. This is where you'll see the list of all the segments that you've created. You can also search through those as well, and it will narrow it down for you. So you can select a previous segment you've used before or one you've just created. You've got these different options here. So once you've created your segment, you can save, and that will save that segment against that campaign then.
Okay. So we just had a question come in on YouTube. Can you put more than one required field starting with some status? So, not sure if you mean bad status, if you mean the stages on the inside a lead or a deal actually. So what we looked at earlier on regarding the field rules, you can apply that in a lead or in a deal. But you can set those rules that we were looking at. You can set rules on all of the fields in your deals. So I believe that's what the question is regarding, can you set more than one required? So inside that particular deal, you can set those rules on all of those fields. So for example, I could come into we have a file stored here. I can set that rule on all of those different stages, like so. So I can choose at what stage I want that rule to take place. So again, it could be at the same stage, or you can decide what stage you want that rule to take place. Okay. We've had some more questions coming in regarding this time around tasks. Okay, so we've had a question around, can we have a set number of tasks that we have to complete each month? Is there a way I can quickly create these? And yes, you can. So it may be that you have multiple number of tasks that need to be completed maybe every month, and obviously you don't want to have to repeat creating those tasks every month because it's a lot of time that's going to be consuming your. So what we can do is, if I go into the task area, a module of the Bitrix system, what we can do is, if we go to create a task, we can create a task very simply. We can add a title, we can add information about that task. You could upload documents. Maybe that you create a checklist, so there may be different items that need to be completed throughout that particular task. So we can add these into the task itself. We can then select who's responsible. It may be that we add a deadline for that task. But then once we've added all of that information, what we can do is we can save that as a template. So if we want to, we can then quickly capture all of this information and then simply select that task when we are going to repeat it. So we have all that information stored, so it saves us the time in the future. But what you can also do, maybe another option for you, would be to use the repeat task option. So what you also can do is, it may be that, as I say, maybe every month you need to repeat this particular task. So you can select the repeat task option here and choose your time frame for how often that task is to be repeated. And that will then automatically be created for you at that time that you have entered into the system. So we can use the task templates. So I could select that task from a template like so. Or we can use the repeat task option to automatically repeat that task at a given time frame.
Okay, so we had another question about filtering contacts into different categories. So yeah, so if you go into CRM and into contacts, so the filter and search option is here. So you can filter on a lot of different fields within the CRM and within contacts. So there's contact type, which is quite a popular field that you'd want to filter on. So for example, you might want to only look for suppliers and partners. You can search using just that field, or you can add additional information into there as well. So you might want to search by contacts who are assigned to a certain responsible person in your system, in your company, a certain time that they've been created. So you can use one of the set times in here, or you can create a custom date as well. So say for example you want to search for suppliers and partners, but you also want to just type something in that you're searching for as well. So you can do that, and that will narrow it down a little more. So you can really search by quite a lot, and this can create a new filter for you as well. So if you want to save this filter based on the fields that you've put in and also based on the text that you've written, you can save that here, and you can call that whatever you would like to call it, and save that so that in the future you can go in and just use that filter rather than having to use these options each time you go in. Okay.
Okay. So we'll just share again our contact details if you need to get in touch throughout the week. You can email sales@interface.com if you'd like to arrange a call to go through your requirements and to arrange a demonstration of the system for you. There are details. Okay. So we've had another question come in on YouTube regarding live chat this time, so from the contact centre. So I want to have live chat on my landing page. Can I add it to each site that I have in Bitrix? So yes, your live chat system, it doesn't just have to be on one particular page in the system. So inside our contact centre, this is what we use to integrate with other platforms and for bringing inbound inquiries into Bitrix. And one option we do have is a live chat feature. So you can integrate this onto your websites and landing pages. And what you can then do is you can choose who is responsible for managing those inquiries. So here we can see who is responsible for dealing with any live chats that come into the system. And you can simply decide here, in terms of integrating those onto your websites, you can configure here by changing the connection where those are going to be integrated onto. Okay. So if there's any more questions, please put those in the comments box and we'll go through those. So some more questions that we've had coming throughout the week here. So can you demonstrate how a form can be filled out on a website that can then integrate into Bitrix and generate a lead? So yes, absolutely, and that's another feature actually that's in the contact center where we can create web forms. So what we can do is we can create a form inside the system here, and you can create multiple forms. So it may be that you have different forms on different parts of your website or on landing pages. So you can create multiple forms that then integrate into Bitrix. So we can come into here and we can see the form builder area. And here's an example here. If we go into one of our forms, you can select on the right hand side the different fields that you're wanting to capture information for. So we can, if we're creating a lead, for example, we want to capture in our form the lead name, the last name. So, and you can decide, and this can include custom fields. So if you have custom fields, you can integrate those into a form. So maybe I want to capture, say, the date of birth as well. So all of that information then gets simply fed into that form. And you can delete and customize what information needs to be displayed. We can give the form a title and add a description as well into there. And then what we can do is we can decide which area of Bitrix we want that form to integrate into. So we can see down here when we create that form, we're telling Bitrix to create a new lead in the system. But as you can see, it may be that you want to create a client or a deal. So you can decide which area of Bitrix that form will integrate into. And obviously, it may be that you want to ensure you don't have duplication if a client inputs the information twice. And we have duplication settings in place so we can prevent any duplicates from entering the system. So once we've created that form, you can then capture that and embed it onto your websites. So you see the script there that you can embed onto your website to create that form, or maybe that you want to create a landing page for that form. So there's different ways that form can then be integrated into your website. So if we save that form now, and just to show you as an example, I can create a public link, so I can then add my information into that particular form, including, say, location, so you can add drop down fields or even conditional formatted fields as well. And if we then submit that information, we'll then see that it integrates back into Bitrix. So here we've received a notification, so I'm aware that a form has now been submitted into the system. And if we go into our lead database now in the CRM, we can see 15 seconds ago the information from that form has been captured, and then we can start working on that form. We can start progressing it through our different stages that we've created, and it does give us the source as well, so we can see where that lead has been generated from.
Okay, so we had a question earlier in the week regarding moving lead stages through business processes. So if you want to move through stages in the lead using a business process, if you go into the settings within the CRM and then automation, business processes, if you go into lead and create your template, then if you add a task, for example, you can set the business process so that when you've completed that task, you move to the next stage within the lead. So within these settings on the right hand side, you've got change status. So if you move that to the next block after the task, you can see within the settings that you can change the status to any of the stages in the lead. So you might want to move to the first call stage and save that, and then you might want to have another task after that. And once that task is complete, you might want to then move to the next stage. So again, you can add your change status block underneath the task, and you can set that new status to follow-up call. So you could do that throughout the whole of the lead if you wanted, or just at certain parts of the lead to follow on from tasks being completed. Okay.
We just had a few questions that get coming in through from YouTube. Just to go back to the CRM forms, a question regarding, is it possible to use CRM forms to add information to an existing deal? So you can, as we quickly looked at, you can merge information. So if we go back into our CRM form builder, if we go back into to edit that particular form, what we can do if we're capturing, say, if it's to do with a deal, we can add the deal fields here to that particular form. And what we can do here is if we select it as a deal, what we can do is we can merge. So existing records we can merge. So any additional information that we are capturing in that deal will then be added once the person has submitted that form. So that additional information will then be added into that particular deal. And another question regarding Instagram, where do any messages that come from Instagram get fed into Bitrix? So if we just go into our cloud site here, so in the contact center, what we have is we can integrate with Instagram. So if somebody messages you on your Instagram site, and it has to be a business Instagram site, if somebody messages you, those communications can be fed into Bitrix, and they will be fed into what we call the messenger system. So if we go into our system here, any messages from Instagram or Facebook as an example, so those social media platforms, they will be fed into your messenger system here. So for example, here I can see an unanswered question. They will all be fed into this section of Bitrix. And if you're, say, responsible for managing these, you'll receive notifications so you're aware of these messages. And you could then go into that message. So this could be an Instagram message for an example. And you can then reply to those directly from Bitrix. And that will then be fed back onto the Instagram platform.
Okay, we have another question from Jasmina regarding a condition that order is confirmed with minimum 60% prepayment amount of the total value. I'm not sure, you've asked if we have a solution for that. We may do, I'm not sure at the moment, but if you want to send us an email with the query on, we'll be able to get back to you on that one.
Yeah, if there are any questions, you can email sales@Interface. We can arrange a call, bespoke demonstration to go through those requirements. So sales@interface.com.
Okay, so we had a customer who said they wanted to search for groups of their employees quickly and easily if they have a large amount of employees. So yeah, so you can do that if you go into the employee section here and find employee. You can either search just typing into this search area, or you can sort of make a group that you want to filter on. So you might want to search for specific department as this customer did. So so you can type in the department that you want to search for, and that will bring up all employees that are assigned within that department. So if you also wanted to search just for some of the other fields as well, you can also do that to combine the search, or you can just type into here as well. So works in the same way as the CRM. You can use the filter and the search functionality, and you can also save that as well. So it's quite a good way to be able to find employees just within a specific department if you want to do that quickly and see a list of them there. Okay.
So another question, just going back to the Instagram question, but asking this time around, can the same integration work with Twitter and on YouTube? So no, the Twitter is not available right now, and YouTube isn't integrated. So as standard in the contact center, we have Facebook and we have Instagram as integrations. So if people, and you need to have business accounts with those platforms to have the integration. So if people comment or send you messages on those platforms on your accounts, those can then be fed into Bitrix. Okay. So another question this time regarding duplicate control. So what type of duplicate control do we have in the CRM? I guess that's a very important aspect of the CRM. You want to make sure that you have correct data and one true view of all of your information that is in the CRM. And what we can do, as we kind of saw when we made those CRM forms, we have duplicate control in there. And we also, in our settings, we have what we call duplicate control. So what we can do is, if we go into our control settings here, what we can do is we can search on different types of duplication here. So we could do a company name, we can do it by the full name of the person, their phone number or email address. So we can check for duplication on all of those parameters, and if it finds those, you can then decide what happens inside Bitrix. So for example, it may be that you want to allow that duplication for a particular reason, so you can accept it, or you can reject that import. So you are keeping all of your information up to date and all correct in the system. So that's an important feature that you have inside the CRM. Another question we've had is around setting sales targets. So in the CRM, you want to be able to set targets for your team, and we can do that. So if you want to see how well your team is performing on a particular month or a given time frame, we can set targets in the system. So if we just go into our analytics area of the CRM, and the analytics area, it captures all of the information from the CRM system. So all of your leads and deals, the conversions, all of that information gets fed into your analytics module. And what we can do is we can set particular targets, say for our team. So maybe as the manager, you want to set those targets for your team, and you can then capture that in the system. So I can see how well our team have progressed, say for a given month. Or you can customize this information. So if I go into our settings here, you can configure those sales targets. So here we can select maybe by employee, and what we can then do is we can change those targets. For example, say it's the manager, we can set those targets in the system, and you can choose what is that target time frame. So is it for a given month, or say a quarter or a year? So you can customize the time parameters for those targets. So we can save that in the system, and then we can then start to see how well our team are working towards those targets for that given time frame.
Okay, we have a question on live about whether we're planning on integrating LinkedIn to Bitrix. So we are hoping to integrate LinkedIn to Bitrix in the future. It's something that we get asked quite a lot by customers and potential customers. So it is something that we are hoping to integrate in the future. At the moment it's not available, but like I say, hopefully in the near future it will be available to integrate with.
Okay. So another question that we've had come in, we get this one quite a lot. It's quite an important area of Bitrix regarding projects. And can you explain the different types of projects that we can manage and create in the system? And there are several different types of projects that we can create. So inside the project here, when I go to create a project, we have what we call an open project. And an open project is where anyone inside the Bitrix system, so anyone in our business who has access to Bitrix, they can openly see this project. So they can enter that project, they can communicate and collaborate and see the information associated to that project. So it's open and allows all of your team to have access to that project. We also have a private project, and this is where the project manager invites in specific colleagues and users who are going to be working on that project. And the key difference here is you need to have permission to access that project. So if you have projects that are secure and you need to set levels of permissions, a private project is very useful because then it is a closed project environment. And we can also have an external project. And an external project is a great tool to have if you are working on projects, and maybe you're working on projects with suppliers or clients. And what we can do with an external project is we can invite those people into Bitrix, even if they're not a user on the system. We can give them a link and password to enter that particular project, and they can then work on that project with you. Maybe you're assigning tasks to them or sharing documents. So you then have the functionality there to invite in your clients and third parties. And there's no additional cost to that. It's a feature that comes with the system, and you can have an unlimited number of external clients inside a project. But we do find is that we find clients are cautious in terms of what areas of a project an external user can see. And the useful feature inside our projects is that we can set permission levels. So inside each project, we can set different levels of permissions. So if we go into our access permissions area, what we can do is we can set permissions on all of the different areas of that project. So for example, inside our tasks here, who's able to actually create a task? I could say it's just the owner of the project. So we can decide what level of authority different users have on any project. And if we say go into the drive area where we're storing documents and maybe sharing these with our external users, on each of these folders and files that we have, we can set permissions. So for example, inside our members documents, the group owners of the project, they have full access, whereas our external users, we've just given read access to them. And we might want to remove all the access, so you might not want to share that particular document with them. So you have full level of authority to set those permissions inside a project, so you can decide the level of access your external users have in the system.
Okay, so we have a question about importing contacts into the CRM. So if you go over to the CRM and into contacts, then you'll see the settings cog here. So these are the ways that you can import contacts. The way we tend to do it, and probably the easiest way, is import custom CSV. So your contacts would need to be in the format of a CSV file. So once you go to upload this, you'll be asked to complete these fields. So you upload your data file there. These fields are pre-populated, and you can select your column separator here, so semicolon, comma, tab, space, and once you go through to next, you'll then be asked to match your custom fields that are in your CSV with the fields that are in the contacts database already. So you'll just need to make sure that those fields match so that the data can be imported properly. And once you've imported the data, you'll be told whether any of the contacts didn't make it into the database. Either there was some error and you'll be told which of the fields was incorrect or where the errors come from, or you'll be told that all of the contacts were imported successfully.
Okay. Another question we've just had come in is it possible to enable search tool when you're searching in documents that are attached to an email? I'm not sure quite what you mean by the search, what you're searching in terms of the attachment. But if we go into the CRM and if we go into our contacts in the system here. So what we can do is, if we go into one of our contacts, on the right hand side here we have the activity stream. So this shows you all of the communications that we've had, and it includes emails in the system, and you have the option here to search through those particular activities. So I'm not sure if that would help with your question. So you can search here, free text, or you can search by particular communication types. So you might want to search by emails, so you can find those particular emails and those attachments. So you can filter through the system, like so. Or if you have saved that, as you say, an attachment, if it's a document that you've then saved, say in the drive module, so in the drive area here we can store files and folders. All of this information in the drive area gets stored and you can then search through there. So if I was looking for a document in here, I have the ability to search through here to find that information.
Okay, we have a question about taking trace information from leads. Again, not sure at the moment, but if you want to send us an email with exactly what you want to do on, then we can answer that for you.
Yeah, so we'll just put up our details again for you.
Okay, we also had a question about SMS. So, which SMS app would you recommend we use, and can you rent multiple numbers? I think that's something that you get asked a lot, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah, so if we go into the app store here, what we can do in terms of SMS, you will need to integrate with one of the SMS providers that we have within Bitrix. So there are a lot of that you can choose from, quite a popular one, Twilio, that you can use. So you need to integrate with one of these SMS providers to enable you to send SMS messages from inside Bitrix. So you can select one of those from the system. In terms of what number you can use, that would really depend on the actual provider that you select. So you would have to check if they enable you to use an existing number in the system here. But yes, so you would need, first of all, critically, is being able to select one of those SMS providers in the system.
Okay, we have a chat about exporting the CSV from Google. It says invalid file type. If you have an issue like that, it's probably best to give us an email and we'll be able to assist you with that, if that's okay.
Okay. We had a question earlier on as well regarding the mailboxes in Bitrix and being able to set permissions on those mailboxes. And that's maybe quite an important feature. So maybe you have a sales mailbox where all of your inquiries come into that mailbox, and you need to have your sales team all visible and access to that particular mailbox. So inside Bitrix, we have our mailboxes in the system here that we've integrated, and you can connect with your chosen mail provider here. So Gmail, Outlook as an example. And once you've added those and it's integrated, what you can then do is we can then go into the settings of that mailbox, and we can then decide who has access. So at the bottom here we have mailbox access, and it's there that we can then choose which given users we want to grant access to that mailbox, or maybe that's a particular department you want to grant access to. So that's a very useful feature for any mailboxes that you want to integrate and grant access to, say, specific members of your team or departments.
Okay, we had a question earlier in the week about list type fields, how you add list type fields, and if you can add list type fields that have multiple values that you can select as well. So you can go into the CRM and then into settings and form and report settings and then custom fields. So say you want to add the field in a contact record, so you'd add the field here. Then the type is where you select the list field, so select the type as list, and then you'll see that you get a new tab here for the list values. So you can add as many different values in here as you like, and these will provide the options that your user and your colleagues will select from when they're selecting this field. So you can also make this multiple type field, so that will mean that you can select more than one of the items that you've got of the list values here. You can make this required as well, as you can with other custom fields. So if you want to make sure that that field is completed properly, you would make this required. And yeah, so that's how you add a list type field and the values that are associated to it.
Okay, so just had another question, just to go back to the searching for a document on an attachment from an email. So in terms of that question, can you search for that document from the drive area when you're creating an email? So if we go into the CRM system, and we'll go back into the contact that we were looking at previously. So if you've integrated your email into Bitrix, you then have the option to email directly from a client's page here. So I can send that email from the system, and you have the option then to attach documents. So I believe this is where the question is coming from. And you have the option here to search. Either you can upload from your local drive and computer, we can also integrate from external drives, or you can search from in Bitrix. And it doesn't give you the option here to actually use, say, a search tool. But what you have here is, for example, we have your personal drive area, which we looked at earlier on. So you have your folders and maybe your files. So what you can do is you can go into any of those particular folders to find that information. So as long as you've stored your information correctly in your drive module, if it's categorized in folders and files, it should be a fairly simple process to simply go through those particular folders to find that attachment that you want to add.
Okay, we have a question about importing deals with linked products, and the product price is always shown as 0. Again, I think that might be something, if you send us an email, we can take a look at that for you. I'm not sure what that issue would be at the moment, but we can address it if you want to send us an email about it.
Yeah, so if we just show our details there for you. So sales@interface.com. So we just had a question around the CRM store and payment options. So in terms of the title of the confirmation email, I think that would depend on specific requirements that when you configure your CRM store. So if you can get in touch, we can arrange a call to discuss that requirement with you.
Okay, I think we've been through all the questions that we've had during the week. I think we've answered all of the questions that have come through on the chat. If there are any more, just send them through and we'll take a look at them. And again, there are contact details if you want to send us an email about anything as well.
Yeah, so if you do need to get in touch, sales@interface.com, we can arrange a call to go through your requirements and to evaluate those and how we can manage those in Bitrix. And we can then provide a bespoke demonstration to show you how those features can be managed on the platform. Okay, yes, I don't think there's any more questions right now, so we'll end this session. And thank you for your time, and we look forward to joining with you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks then, guys. Take care.